Hello, everybody. Coming on early, Christopher Gillingham, one of the early ones always, saying ahoy from Leamington. Christopher listening in and looking forward to the conversation. Chris and Jane too. Ted Ryman down in Cape Town, Seattle Stingray, Seattle, the Seattle Flash, Ed Worley, Paul Homchick, and many others. Warren Schasser in Brisbane, lockdown in Australia, George Zamet Briffa. Oh, there's a new name, I think. George, welcome to you, sir. Rosemary Metzger, Paul Homchick, we mentioned Alan Long, Jonathan Frank. Greetings from on board the good sailing ship Sir Reserve in Galveston, Texas. Jason Holton. Peter Gibbons Neff in Kinsdale, Ireland. Carlos Aviz from Brazil, and many others. We'll get this one on the road. Show number 450, Super September. Welcome. Friday's the 3rd of September, 2021. Julia Wedekind is here. We did not coordinate our outfits today, Julia. My pink shirt, is that pink, magenta? What color do you call that?
Pink, magenta, just fine.
And a fantastic scarf, one of your most colorful scarves. Stingray will not put up hashtag the scarf. Where's the scarf? We're live from Studio B. I'm your host, Tom Ehman. We got a big show. We got a lot of news. Welcome to all. Let's get this one on the road. Thank you to Tim Kent Racing, who was with us on Tuesday. He's raised some money, still not the 80 grand that he was looking for, but if you're so inclined, we hope you'll support him. This is the only father-daughter campaign for the Transat Jacques Vabre. That race coming up in November starts on the 7th of November. They race from France down, leaving the Cape Verde Islands to starboard, and then over to Martinique, the old coffee route de Rhum. But this is the Jacques Vabre, the TJV, starting in Le Havre. As I said, the only father-daughter team entered, the only all-American team. We think there's one other American sailing on a boat with a Brit. Bravo Zulu to them. It was great to have them on the show. And if you are so inclined, we hope you will support them. KentRacing.org, or you can write to Tim at, no surprise, KentRacing.org. It was great to have them on the show, wasn't it, Julia?
Yes, indeed.
Nice folk. We didn't have the Whitney, we didn't have the daughter on, but it was really nice to have Tim on,
right, and
to learn about his daughters, not only Whitney, but also Allison, who's down in New Zealand, writing, and he's a videographer for Live, Sail, Die, a terrific Kiwi website, sailing website. Just an update on the esteemed Southern Yacht Club down in New Orleans. We told you on Tuesday about the hurricane going through there on Sunday, and just barely to the west of them, a mile or so to the west. Good news continues to be that they've only have some ground floor damage. The Commodore posted a couple days ago, they on Tuesday night, surveyed the club with Commodore Provençal this morning. The club fared well, very little damage except for some water in the ground floor lobby that we were telling you about with Guy, don't call me Guy Briere, who's a past Commodore of the club, who's been our loyal correspondent. And by the way, Guy, I was calling him Guy on the show because Briere is a French name.
Yes.
And, you're a Cajun, you're from New Orleans. So he says, no, I'm just a regular guy. Great guy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Guy Briere, for your keeping us posted. But Guy got out, as did a lot of other people, because they will not have electricity in New Orleans, any power anytime soon. There's still nearly, 900,000 people without power, something like that.
A lot of it is back, but not operable because all the lines are down and all that.
Well, that one big power line across the river went down, and the whole superstructure and so on. But guys over in Pensacola, a lot of them went east to the Florida Panhandle where they have houses and cottages and so on. Good preparation by storm volunteers and staff minimized any damage, including removing the junior dock tent. We'll start to clean up as soon as the floodgates are open, which they did open up later Tuesday or Wednesday, I guess. We hope all club members and staff are safe, and they're keeping everybody posted. Pass the word, the SYC Burgee still flying high, as you can see there on the pole in the upper left corner. Good news here on the fires. Thank you again. A lot of you have written and asked about these fires, and I know it's making international news. Part of it is because people are stirring it up as yet another climate crisis. But, Julia, it's just that we here in California have not maintained the underbrush, have not done the normal.
Well, that's one real good reason, right?
Forest conservation,
right.
For years. Boy, we are pink, aren't we?
Well, we're in the pink.
We're in the pink. It is. It's September, super September, the best month of the year here in the Northern Hemisphere for most people in terms of weather, but also a great sailing month, the end of the summer up here for most, and getting underway, the spring getting underway here shortly down under. But the fires, it looks now like they will not, this big Caldor fire is unlikely, as of reports just before we went to air. Now the fire, Cal Fire, says it's unlikely to reach Lake Tahoe, which is a beautiful resort area, terrific deep water, cold lake. We've all sailed up there at one time or another. It seems like we have. I certainly did. And that's great news to hear as well. Julia, your witness.
Yes. Be sure to like, follow, and share.
I like it when you say without fail.
Without fail.
Achtung.
Yeah. Achtung.
That's what I like it. Comments are welcome too, even in replay. As you all, at least you regulars, know, if you're new here, please support us on Patreon. Many people do. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Give us $5 or $10 a month. Helps keep the power on and us fed. Let's get into the starting line. Our first segment, the A block here. The news from up north, we were telling you about the Canada's Cup. It started yesterday. And Royal Canadian Yacht Club, no surprise, has won all three races in their match against the challenger from New York State, just across the lake, Lake Ontario, the Youngstown Yacht Club. Look at these beautiful photos from yesterday. I believe these are all from yesterday, which turned out to be a pretty breezy day, day one. That's the dock from the island station of the beautiful Royal Canadian Yacht Club, looking across, looking north to the, obviously the city. That's on the left is the CN Tower, which has been there, I guess, since I was a kid, I think. They had a World's Fair. They had something up there when they built that tower.
Yes.
And CN used to stand for Canadian National, the Canadian National Railway, yes. I think. But a beautiful city, one of the nicest towns.
I was there during this fair.
You were?
Yeah.
What year was that?
Well,
70s, early 70s, late 60s?
No, it was, oh, gosh.
One of our FOSI will know.
Yeah, I was thinking I was early 80s, but.
Now wag your finger at Stingray. Do you see what it just said?
What?
Were there any beaver sightings?
Depends on who's looking.
At least she's got a good sense of humor. Now, as you probably, when we had the co-chairs on the show a couple weeks ago, Alan McGarry and Jamie Keating, past Commodore Jamie Keating, we pointed out to them that we're told that the Royal Canadian Yacht Club is the only club in the world that has a beaver on its burgee. That led to a whole bunch of, this is a family
some tasteful and some not so tasteful
comments. But we love all the comments. Keep them coming. But what a beautiful shot of a Toronto Harbor, beautiful downtown Toronto there. And then looking, I guess they had I guess that's to the west. This was one of three races yesterday, the third of which was apparently, as we would say in Michigan, maybe even in Toronto, a real barn burner. You can see here the Royal Canadian Yacht Club is trailing. They're in the red clothes, the red livery there. In IC-37s, the Melgus New York Yacht Club IC-37s, which I think is a brilliant move by the club. These are one-design boats. They're following the class rules, which means they have to have X many men and or women. They have to have a mixture of men and women on the teams, and I think maybe even a youth sailor. That is the Youngstown Yacht Club in the blue kite, obviously the Canadian club in the lead here, Terry McLaughlin's team. Beautiful photos. I haven't seen any video. There probably is some, but I haven't seen any. No one sent anything to me. So, gang, if you're up there watching at RCYC, and no video, please send it. Here's Terry McLaughlin and co. on their IC-37. They won all 3 races yesterday, and you got to love that shot. Sharon Green, whose late great dad was a
That's a great picture.
fast Commodore of the club, and Sharon, of course, lives out here in California now and is one of the best photographers in the sport. Wouldn't you agree, Julia?
Yes, absolutely.
Fabulous photos. Our CYC leads the Youngstown Yacht Club of New York 3-0 in the best of 11 series. So it could be over today if our CYC wins all 3 races. Now, literally 10, 11, 12 minutes ago before we went there, I checked the website one more time to see if, in fact, I should go to camera 3 so Pindar gets a little branding there when you put that up there. They win all 3 races today. It'll be over in 2 days, 6-0. So it's first to win 6, best of 11 at the Canada's Cup, one of the oldest match racing events in the world and coolest. Yes. Speaking of O Canada, bravo Zulu to a FOSI. We've had her on the show, and I think this was awarded, not 100% sure, but in the last couple nights at Royal Canadian Yacht Club, the Rolex Yachts Person of the Year, Sailor of the Year in Canada is none other than Sarah Douglas. Isn't that great?
Oh, news? Yes, she's great.
She was a terrific interview. We had her on here over a year ago.
Yep.
Originally from the Caribbean and now a Canadian, and competed for Canada in the Olympics. Following her 6th place finish at Tokyo in the laser radial, the Sarah Douglas received this award for the 2nd time in a row at Canada's Celebration of Sailing, led by Sail Canada and the Royal Canadian Yacht Club today, which I think was yesterday, in Toronto. The event, attended by approximately 110 guests, including the members of the Tokyo 2020 Canadian Olympic Sailing Team and past Olympians, celebrates performances and experiences of Canada's high-performance sailors of the past, present, and future. Sarah achieved Canada's best individual performance in women's sailing in Olympic history in Tokyo by finishing in 6th position overall in the laser radial, aka Ilka 6 for 6 square meters. She also became the first Canadian to take part in the medal race of the laser radial class since this event was introduced to the Olympic program in 2008 in Beijing. The previous best Canadian result in laser radial was 16th in Rio 2016. In 2020, she also took 6th spot at the Laser Radial European Championship. So bravo effing Zulu. Bravo, we're really proud of you, Sarah. Terrific stuff. She's well deserved, I'm sure, Julia.
Yes.
And as I said, FOSI, we're delighted to have had her on the show. Let's stop there, Julia, and see who's on here commenting. My goodness, we have a lot of folks on here. Sarah Douglas was named Rolex Canadian Sailor of the Year. Thanks, John Emmett. Magnus Wheatley is on here. He's apparently fully recovered from his bout with the bloody COVID. Greg Newman, Father Newman, is on, one of the great contributors to our sport down in SoCal and beyond. Zoran Overoop. We haven't seen Zoran on in a while from Copenhagen. He's been on the show. Andrew Pindar, question, can you play the Maple Leaf Rag or Maple Leaf Forever? Answer, no, I get tired about after half an hour. Why is Pindar in such a good mood? There is a beaver sailing club in the UK. Goody sometimes sailed for them, John Emmett is saying. Yes, but John, the question is, do they have a beaver on their Virgin?
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on. It's Friday. It's the end of kind of a strange week.
Indeed.
And we'll press on. I don't see any other big comments here. The America's Cup. We'll get serious here for a minute because the venue beat goes on. And now Mr. Daltz has pushed back hard. Of course, you know, most of you will know it's the 170th. We've been telling you, 170th anniversary of the oldest trophy in international sports. And just a few days ago, August 22nd. And the venue, what do you call it? The venue conundrum continues. How's that for alliteration?
Yeah.
Is it going to be in Cork, Ireland, Valencia, Spain, or is it flying off to the Middle East? Either two. I keep hearing Abu Dhabi, but the FOSI in Europe and in Auckland say it's Saudi Arabia, saying it's Jeddah. And I think if it goes to Jeddah, it'll be a disaster for the sport, for the cup. I hope that doesn't happen. One hears they've offered $200 million U.S. dollars, 100 to or so to run the event, 100 to run the team. That is
Wow.
Emirates Team New Zealand. Is it flying off to the Middle East? Well, I think this is all posture. I think these are straw man to convince everybody to go back to New Zealand. America's Cup could stay if Dalton leaves Team New Zealand, claims the rich lister, as they call him down under, at least in New Zealand. A rich lister. Team New Zealand questions the intentions of this gentleman we told you about on Tuesday. An influential rich lister claims he has donors lined up to fund a New Zealand-hosted defense. This guy, Mark Dunphy, we told you about. Team NZ says it has no choice but to look overseas due to lack of funding. Cork in Ireland, Valencia in Spain, Jeddah in Saudi Arabia are all bidding to host the event, according to this article in the New Zealand Herald we told you about on Tuesday. The decision on whether they're got to be held overseas will be made on September 17th. This is the gentleman who has come to the fore down there. This guy Dunphy, Mark Dunphy, I don't know him, CEO of and apparently a very well-off guy called Greymouth Petroleum, well known to the government, to many, many other people. And it's not just him. One hears, and I didn't tell you on Tuesday, but one hears that Michael Fay is in bed with him. Not literally, obviously, but is backing this effort to keep the cup in New Zealand by Mr. Dunphy,
right?
As are a number of other affluent individuals. And Mr. Dunphy has said that nothing would make him happier than ETNZ raising its own funds. Quote, but if Grant Dalton and Team New Zealand don't want to do that or can't do that, then I, Mr. Dunphy, am happy to do that. In this context, it seems most donors are happy to put in funds providing Grant Dalton is not involved, Dunphy said. Again, we told you that on Tuesday. Yeah. So he's, and this has been big news in New Zealand. It's been big news, really, in the sailing world. It's made the front pages of any number of the websites and so on. There's already been pushback, very nicely orchestrated by Team New Zealand. Know who that is, Julia? That's Sir Stephen Tyndall, who was chairman of the board till he stepped down earlier this year, right after they won the Cup. Team New Zealand won't win the America's Cup without Grant Dalton, says Sir Stephen Tyndall, the very highly regarded businessman. This in an article by Duncan Johnstone a couple days ago, stuff.co.nz. Sir Stephen Tyndall says Team New Zealand won't win the America's Cup without Grant Dalton in charge. Tyndall, a longtime sponsor and the recently retired chairman, and one of the country's most respected businessmen and public figures, has voiced strong support for Dalton amidst calls for him to be removed over the current hosting process. Quote, the last thing we want after this brilliant win in Auckland is to see what happened in 2003 when we didn't have the right culture in the team. Things weren't right, and as a result, we lost, unquote. And obviously, after Russell Coutts and co. left and went to Alinghi, Russell and Brad and the so-called Tight Five. Tyndall described the crucial relationship between the RNZ and Team New Zealand, a partnership that could be tested in court, Mr. Johnstone says here in his article, Duncan Johnstone, as absolutely rock solid. That is the partnership, the relationship. But one continues to hear that it could well be headed for court if the Cup does not return and stay in New Zealand for AC 37. Mm-hmm. Now, this is on the front page, as of I think last night, of Sailing Anarchy, which you always have to take with a big grain of salt, but it's actually a fairly well-written piece by an anarchist called David. I don't know who anarchist David is, but on the front page of Sailing Anarchy, has Dalton blown it. And New Zealand has always tended to exhibit a rather aggressive approach when it comes to expressing its national sporting pride, and it goes on to talk about the Haka and the All Blacks and so on. I commend the article to you, front page of Sailing Anarchy. Go have a look. Then some more jungle drums. This is from Gerald New, whose headline really was a little more clickbaity, catchy, maybe not clickbait, but America's Cup jungle drums beat for Grant Dalton's head. Gerald New in the respected sailweb.co.uk. I've talked to Gerald on the phone any number of times, and I quite like the gentleman, but I met him in person that I remember. But he writes a lot and writes well on his website, including this piece. There have been calls by Mark Dunphy of Greymouth Petroleum, who claims he has a consortium of private backers with the funds to allow TNZ to defend the Cup at home. There have been calls for Dalton to stand down as CEO of ETNZ for his deal to go ahead. That is Dunphy's deal. It seems that the man who has masterminded the rebirth of Team New Zealand after their loss of the Cup in 2003 and just led them to victory again on home waters is not required. In response, an Emirates Team New Zealand group describing themselves as long-term team members, quote unquote, issued a strongly worded statement. Now, I was sent this statement by Russell Green, my longtime friend who's the legal advisor. And you saw the statement when we got it a couple of days ago. We got it just after the show on Tuesday, I think. And it's an interesting statement. I'm going to read the entire thing because I promised Russell I would.
Oh, good. Okay.
And to give you their side of the story. Russell Green, the legal advisor, the rules advisor for ETNZ. Here's the statement. Has also said he would come on the show when the dust settles. And he thinks we've been fed some misinformation. And he politely emailed this statement, and we had a bit of a back and forth. I quite like Russell, knowing him well. Huge respect for him. As we've been on teams together, we've done a lot of judging and umpiring together, and he's a good man. Russell Green from New Zealand. So I go back to a statement from a group of long-term team members of ETNZ. Here's the statement. As dedicated members of ETNZ, some of us have been part of this team and in the America's Cup for longer than many, including Dalts. We've experienced the good and the bad, the wins and the losses, and everything in between, and that makes us well qualified to say who we think is best to lead this team to defend and win the 37th Cup. For an assumption to be made that as a group of people, we would simply welcome the departure of someone like Dalts, who has achieved more and given more than you could ever imagine to this team, our country, and to other people, is mind-boggling. After a single phone call with Dalts and refusal to meet with management of the ETNZ board, in our opinion, Mr. Dunphy has publicly undermined our team structure. In addition, he has undermined the absolute dedication and commitment that Dalts has displayed relentlessly since 2003 when taking over the running of what were the ashes of a defeated America's Cup team, the aforementioned 2003 Cup team when they lost 5-0 to Alinghi. It was bad. To build it back up, and then Dalts built it back up to the most successful America's Cup team in modern history with our proud yacht club, the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. Now, notwithstanding that comment there, Mr. Dunphy apparently did meet with Sir Stephen Tyndall, according to Sir Stephen in that article that we were quoting from a minute ago. So there has been more than just a phone call with Dalts, but probably not much more than that. If anyone has proved they can raise money, this is the team statement continues. If anyone has proven that they can raise money for the team, it's Dalts. To keep the team afloat over the last 18 years, he's raised over $500 million in sponsorship to be able to proudly put New Zealand technology, innovation, and sporting talent on a global stage, yada, yada, yada. Of course, Dalts would not claim to have done this on his own. Then the next paragraph, we're all incredibly proud of this team. It has one of the most admired organizational cultures in sport. And I would agree with that. I mean, they are, wouldn't you agree, Julia?
Yep.
Terrific outfit, terrific operation. Last sentence there on the bottom, it is naive to think that management of an organization like this can be replaced so easily. And I certainly agree. No individual has ever won the America's Cup. This is a key paragraph. There is never a place in this team for individuals who act with self-interest before putting the team, their teammates, and the sole objective of winning first, no matter where it is. In the last paragraph, to be clear, as much as we would love to race in Auckland, we would rather win proudly flying the flag of New Zealand, the RNZ, and our team anywhere internationally than to undermine the structure of a winning team and face losing in Auckland. None of us want a repeat of 2003. You can tell, I think the lawyer wrote this. Russell probably drafted a lot because you know how lawyers love long sentences.
Yes.
As opposed to you and me who love short, punchy, simple declarative sentences, a la Bernie Wilson.
Yes.
Final little bit here. As any Kiwi that has traveled understands, you always fly the Kiwi flag prouder when you are doing it offshore. After all, there are significantly more eyeballs to see the remarkable technology and innovation created by the team in the country we represent when offshore. Mr. Dunphy has not shown any transparency or consultation with the team and has in no way, shape, or form offered confidence in a process that would allow a successful defense of the 37th America's Cup, which once again remains our sole focus, alongside the treatment of our people. Without them, we would be nothing. Okay, so that's the statement. That's the entire statement.
Very strong.
It's very strong, but there was one strange thing about that. Did you notice anything interesting or strange about that statement?
Who is signing it?
Exactly. Well done, as usual. My very bright co-host, Tess, Julia Wedekind. And we didn't talk about this. There is no mention of anybody. This is supposedly a statement by long-term members of the team, but now no one quoted, no one mentioned, no names, no signatures, no nothing. You know, Julie and I could have written that thing too.
Maybe we did.
Maybe we did.
We didn't.
So it is a strong statement. It's a good statement. I promised Russell I'd read it. But it is strange, I must say, that there are no names attached to it, no signatories, no quotes.
Not even his.
Not even Russell's.
Yeah.
Well, understandably. Okay. Now, let's go to Richard Gladwell, who has, I haven't talked to Richard, he was tied up with the Olympics, but he's been on our show almost as many times, maybe more than anyone else. We'd have to, again, consult our navigator, Clark Chapin. Yeah. But this is one of the many previous shows. Richard has appeared live via Skype from Auckland, from his office down there in Devonport in Auckland. And he's a great scribe, but he's also a great supporter of Team New Zealand. And what does he write? Quote, when you know what he, meaning Dalton, deals with, I don't know how he gets through what he does. There are not too many people on the planet who I can think of who can take on as many things as he does. Kevin Shoebridge, this again is Gladwell, Richard Gladwell, a homeboy to be sure, and he'd be the first one to tell you. Kevin Shoebridge and Richard Meacham are probably not far off of Dalton's capabilities. But what Grant does is quite difficult, and if he doesn't do his job well, the whole team can't do their job at all. It has been a massive responsibility. For Dalton to be able to lift the cup up as both a challenger and defender is testimony to the hard yards he has put in. And I having done that myself, I totally and firmly agree. You have to work hard, last paragraph, you have to work hard to achieve success, and I don't think there is any question that Dalton hasn't worked hard, kind of a double negative, hasn't worked hard for the success we've achieved. Okay, and again, quite fair. And that's Gladwell writing. Did I say Gladstone? Or got Gladstones on the brain up. There's going to be a Gladstones San Diego, by the way.
Oh, good.
Just as an aside, the ENTP that I am, I'm always bouncing from one topic. Richard Gladwell, and he concludes this piece in sail-world.com. The lessons of the mass exit from Team New Zealand in May 2000 and its aftermath in the 03 Cup seem to be lost on those who now call for the highly successful team's CEO to walk the plank as a condition of their unspecified financial involvement. At least some of us, Richard says, have learned from history and don't care to repeat it. Our FOSI, longtime friend, superb journalist, scribe.
He's been a guest 12 times.
Is that what Clark says?
Yep.
So maybe the most number of times of anybody. That's right. That's Gladwell.
Yep.
Writing in sail-world.com. Now, interestingly, Richard went on to say quite a bit about what he thought would be the next venue. He claims that Valencia, Spain, that's the Darcena, as it's called locally, is the harbor, and the inner harbor. And you can see that long dock. I should go over here to this long dock is the super yacht dock. This is an event center, another event center. This was the old Oracle base. That's the Prada base, and then down here to the Alinghi base, and then there's some more bases here. But those have all been taken over by marine businesses. So they're now saying that the bases would be over here in this basin or out here in this basin. There's a couple different areas that they're looking at. Suffice to say, Richard Gladwell has written a piece saying, and I'll read a good bit of it. Sail World sources in Valencia say they have made, quote, unexpected progress over the past couple of weeks and are confident they have a good proposal for the hosting of the next America's Cup. And he talks about the venue decision is due in 2 weeks and about the other possibility venues, Auckland, Jeddah, Cork, and Valencia. It's hard to see. Now, listen to this last paragraph here. I can take it off the camera. It is hard to see how an America's Cup can work in Jeddah. This is Richard Gladwell writing. And I totally agree with this. It is hard to see how an America's Cup can work in Jeddah, given that Saudi Arabia has several prohibitions, including one of the consumption of beer, wine, or champagne, meaning alcohol. Mm-hmm. There is also a strict dress code that precludes men from wearing shorts and a few other issues. Well, the king or the crown prince can, with an edict, can change those rules, maybe not the alcohol rule. Whether the Saudis are prepared to create an America's Cup bubble to allow the regatta to operate as normal remains to be seen. One assumes that there is no shortage of money. And again, I hear that there's $200 million on offer, or euros or something, but yeah. 200 or something. It's real money. Yeah. The Old Town is a World Heritage, the Old Town of Jeddah is a World Heritage site. Wind strength and air temperature are also issues, you think? Given that under the deed of gift, a match cannot be sailed between November 1st and May 1st, if, Richard didn't say, but he meant to say, if it's in the Northern Hemisphere. The Southern Hemisphere can only be sailed in that same period. And that was, originally the deed said it can only be sailed in the months, not the Northern Hemisphere summer months. Mm-hmm. And then they realized once the Royal Perth won it, they had to amend the deed to say, well, if in the Southern Hemisphere, then it's those other months. Yeah. But you're going to have to race this early in the year before it gets hot, or late in the year before it gets hot, which the deed pretty well precludes Jeddah unless there's an amendment to the deed, which again is not out of the realm of possibility. But I cannot imagine Jeddah being selected. I still think this is a straw man. It's a stalking horse. Call it what you want.
Travel restrictions are.
Well, it's to say nothing of what's going on in Afghanistan now and Qatar, and who knows what's going to happen. And the fact that 20 years ago, it was basically Saudis who masterminded that 9/11 situation here and that tragedy here in the U.S.
And restrictions on half the population who are women.
And on and on and on. And, outlawing homosexuality and outlawing a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
So Gladwell in that last paragraph, I see he agrees, I guess with us or we with him, that we just cannot see how it's going to end up in Jeddah, which Richard then says puts it back firmly in the hands of, you know where that is? That is the Velas Events. I couldn't come up with a name the other day.
Oh, yeah, it's in Valencia.
It's in Valencia. That was the building purposely built and in a rush. It wasn't very well built, by the way, but it's still there, and it's the event center in the so-called Darsena. And that's Troy Sears' replica Yacht America that was there in 07. Excuse me, for the 07. I think that was 07 and not 10. But this Velas Events is not Spanish. That's Valenciano, which is essentially the same language as Catalan. Don't ever say that to somebody from Barcelona, because the Barcelonans and the Valencians hate each other. Yes. They speak basically the same language, but no, we speak Catalan and you speak Valenciano, or vice versa. So is it headed back there? Well, Auckland still has the Ineos base, Ineos Team UK, and American Magic bases remain there, as do a lot of their assets. I still submit to you the next cup should be and will be in Auckland. That you're shaking your head, yes. Nodding your head, yes.
Yeah, I think it would makes more sense, but
I agree. I agree, and I think a lot of I think this is all a lot of posturing and a lot of Cork. You've got problems up there with the different wind directions in the islands and trying to sail it. Even people and not many hotel rooms, and they're starting now to digest the amount of money involved. By the way, one also hears, Julia, they're saying that you've got to come up with, to be the winning bidder, you've got to cash on the barrelhead of 15 million something euros or dollars or something.
Where?
on the 17th of September. $15 million cash as your down payment to win the bid. So, it's real money. And we'll see. I still think this thing belongs in Auckland. We'll go back to Auckland. If it's in the Solent, I can deal with that. Apparently it won't be in Portsmouth, but it could be in Southampton easily. It could even be over on Cowes or back and forth between Southampton and Cowes.
I can't believe that taking the cup out of Auckland would give impetus to the team to win.
I think they'll lose if they go out of Auckland,
Yeah.
just like Oracle lost.
Exactly.
When we let the cup go to Bermuda. See what happened?
All heart was lost.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more, Julia. And we didn't rehearse this, did we?
No.
We don't rehearse.
I was going to say, we don't rehearse anything.
You get down here about 15 minutes before we go to air. Sit down, we adjust a few cameras, and here we go. So those two bases are down there. They're betting, both Ineos. I don't know about Ineos. I think Ineos still would love to see it in the Solent, as would I. I think that would work. It'd be good for the Cup, good for Europe. I buy that. I accept that. But Jeddah?
Look, Ineos should then win it and take it back.
Go back to Auckland. Now, interestingly, this is Gladwell's take on Auckland. Auckland, he says, is excluded by COVID policy. With an announcement due 2 weeks from today, it is hard to understand how Auckland could be named the venue even with an acceptable hosting package in place. Currently, Auckland is in a level 4 lockdown, as we all know. And by the way, Hamish Ross has got, and Richard apparently have got a lot of time on their hands because they're writing. They're more prolific than usual. And we'll show you some of the stuff Hamish has written on the history of the Cup in a sec. Currently, Auckland is in a level 4 lockdown, a situation expected to be in place for another at least 2 weeks, with one leading epidemiologist predicting that the city could be locked down for months if the elimination strategy fails. And I would submit to you that the elimination strategy has already failed, Julia, and that the so-called COVID zero policy is a bust. And wherever it's been tried, okay, we'll do it for a couple of weeks to flatten the curve so we don't have a big push into the hospitals. Again, I get that, I understand that. But so Gladwell goes on. He said this week, middle paragraph, the NZ government called a timeout on accepting applications for managed isolation and quarantine places. That's why you don't see Kiwi sailors coming abroad for events like Gov Cup and Congressional Cup and so on. All places are taken until the end of November, and those for December are yet to be announced. Everyone entering New Zealand has to go through a 14-day stay in MIQ, Managed Isolation Quarantine, by the government. Earlier, the NZ government had declined the application of SailGP for 170 MIQ places for mid-January, as we reported some weeks ago. That event down in, where was that, in Christchurch? That regatta has apparently been called off. In short, there's no room at the Kiwi MIQ Inn, Gladwell writes. Both American Magic and Ineos Team UK have their bases in Auckland, as we mentioned, on Wynyard Point, containing their AC-75s and sailing gear. I didn't know that Ineos's boats were still there, but apparently they are as well.
And I can only imagine what that's doing to the economy, though.
Well, no, and look at what just happened in our jobs report here.
I know.
It's way lower than what they were expecting. Like 1 million jobs lower was the job report that came out this morning. It's just, the Biden administration is not amused. Okay, so I put it to the FOSI, and Baton Rouge is saying, do these cities have a projected date from the teams as a target for
the
event? Well, I put it to you. By all accounts now, what we're hearing, the event is going to be in 2024. So in the winner and the score, we don't really care. This is courtesy of Wikipedia. I pulled off this morning as just a graphic. What's your best guess? Let's ask the FOSI, Julia.
Okay.
What is your best guess? I'm getting a call from Australia. I don't know who that's from, but we won't take it because this show is more important than any calls from Australia, unless it's one of the FOSI with some kind of news. And if it is, send us a text, please. Well, let's go back to this. Tell us where you think it is going to be, assuming, and I see Magnus is on, Magnus Wheatley, who's, basically, Magnus, you've been a bit all over the map on this one. Solent, Cork, You know, you seem to be a cheerleader for all these sites, which is good. By the way, Magnus wrote a brilliant piece this morning about Olympic classes and former Olympic classes. Again, if you don't read Magnus's Rule 69 blog at rule69blog.com, it's free. It comes out almost daily, sometimes twice a day. It's a brilliant piece.
Yeah.
Where do you think the next cup is going to be? Ed Worley says Auckland. Kim Pennell says Pennell. Just hello, Kim. New name to me at least. Just doesn't make sense to not try to get a return on original investment and not have it in Auckland. Would leave a very bad taste in many Kiwis' mouths. MIQ will not be around in the future, so COVID shouldn't. That's what I think too. Kim Pennell. Panel, is it Pannell or Panel? Kim, I agree. I think this MIQ argument by Richard is, I don't know, Julia, how you feel. I found that a bit strange.
But it's not strange to him because he's in the middle of it.
Okay, has our broadcast been interrupted? I don't think it's been interrupted. I think my view of it on the phone. You still got the...
Yep, I got it.
Okay, I think it was just on my phone. My Stingray's current guesses in order are Auckland and Cork. Andrew Pindar says Scarborough.
Yes, of course.
Scarborough.
Yes.
Emmett will say, ever the cautious gentleman, Emmett says, I'll make my prediction on September 18th. Hamish Ross, it'll be bracing. Don Lunabos is watching. Oh, Don. Rob Sternstein, I think will be either in Auckland or Cork. Ted Ryman says Auckland. Jody Shields, Singapore's vaccine landed in Sydney today. Does Singapore have a vaccine? Didn't know that. John Emmett, we need them. Cannot get a shot until the second week of October. Do these cities? Yeah, okay. What else? A lot of people on, 70 people. Bill Parker in Cincinnati, normally I would say Auckland, and then the Solent. Bill Canfield is watching. Stingray, Gladwell has been raging against the elimination policy for almost, yes, he has, Stingray, and a lot of others have too. Hamish Ross is not too amused with the elimination policy, or what some of us call COVID zero, or I've seen it called in the Aussie press and the Kiwi press maybe. I haven't seen it called that up here, have you? COVID zero, meaning let's try to absolutely stamp it out and keep it out, which New Zealand did for a while. But again, I digress. If you believe what Dr. John Campbell said, and we ran on the Tuesday show briefly, part of his segment on John Campbell's YouTube page. Go have a look at that. But if you believe that, and you believe what now Andrew McIrvin has been hinting to us, and actually said when we had him on the show last week, everyone's going to get it. Mm-hmm. Like the flu, like the common cold. We're all going to get it. You buy that?
Well, those guys have been right more than they've been wrong, but I can see it acting like the seasonal flu. Everybody's going to get it. Not everybody gets it, but everybody can.
No, I don't want to mess up my makeup. My makeup's not too bad. You can still see.
Yes.
Some of it. But if you don't know what I'm talking about with makeup, you're going to have to go watch last week's show. Sorry, it was so scary looking. God.
It was.
Magnus says Jeddah nailed on. Magnus insists it's going, and the guy's he's very well sourced normally. So he's saying Jeddah.
I can't
Gordon
believe
Smith,
they
Thomas
do that.
O'Root, I can hear that he has never been to Scarborough. Well, I've been to Scarborough, Ontario, never to Scarborough in England. Erie, Pennsylvania. Tier de Jong. Hello, Patrick Dyer, and a lot of other. Anybody else? Mark Husted. No, Singapore has donated their vaccine stock to Australia, and Australia will return it back to them in December. Okay, that's interesting.
Why would they do that?
Why not? Why not? They've got excess. Everybody's been vaxxed or done. They're like Israel. They've done a really good job of getting
I know,
people.
but why would Australia return it to them?
Well, if they don't need it.
Oh.
I think just excess. In 10 years' time, there will be a huge difference in COVID immunity between a country like the UK and somewhere like China, as Emmett is saying. Well, and his Chinese wife, probably. Janice Davis. Another hiccup. This makes two. Hitting the red line straightens it up. Okay, yeah, I don't know. If those of you, if you're seeing these interruptions again, I did like 3-hour tests yesterday and today of our streaming service at these settings, exact settings that we're using. So I don't know. Now Emmett is saying the split lip story. Well, that's another story. Gordon Smith, with no vaccinations, no practical, NZ and Oz have had no practical alternative. Yeah, I don't know why they didn't get the vaccinations. They were available, I think. We're all going to get it. It's not a smart argument when there is little vaccination. Hospital space and oxygen, good point, are limited. I absolutely believe the majority of people will be infected, Paul Homchick is saying, Julia. Jody Shields, follow the money. The Middle East has piles of it, especially with the price of oil, since we've decided not to be energy independent anymore in this country. Another amazing decision by our current administration. They do that because Oz is desperate at the moment, John Emmett is saying. Anybody else? Are they talking about having a dog match or multiple challenge? I think, Ed, they're talking now about multiple challengers, not a one-on-one, not just a one-on-one match. I'm pretty sure that's what we're all hearing from. Okay, so a lot of you think it's going to be in Auckland. A lot of you think otherwise. We'll cover this again next week.
It's not so far away.
Well, no, the 17th is just in 14 days, 2 weeks from today.
2 weeks, yeah.
Right?
Right.
2 weeks from today. You just saw this picture of Grant Simmer pop up, our longtime friend. Done a campaign or two with him, Australian Sailing. He is now a new board member of Australian Sailing, so congrats to him. Delighted that he's doing that. He's back in Australia. And the question has been, is he still with ENEOS? According to this report from Yachting Australia, is that what they're called now? Whatever they're called. He has competed, their national governing body, in 11 America's Cup as crew or team leadership for 4 wins, including his role as navigator on Australia 2's historic victory in '83. He helped design the winning 03 and 07 boats for Alinghi before joining Oracle for the 13 and 17 defenses, where he added another victory in 13 and lost in 17, of course. Simmer joined Ben Ainsley Racing in 17 and was CEO of ENEOS Team UK through to the completion of the last America's Cup in Auckland. So I take that as I haven't talked to Grant, I haven't heard from him, but our friends in the UK and elsewhere tell us that he is done with ENEOS Team UK, and that article would seem to
say
confirm.
So, yeah.
One last America's Cup picture, this from 13. I ran it on my Facebook page, and I'm surprised how many Americans didn't know who that lady was on the left. I said, oh, this is one of those memory things that pops up. Julie, you remember every now and then, like this would have popped up earlier this week. And this picture was taken by somebody. There's past GGYC Commodore Norbert Byron in the back and former Rear Commodore Dave Santori. Right. That lady, I said, it's nice to be with famous faces, famous people like Sir Ben Ainsley. And of course, those who didn't recognize the lady, that's our Speaker of the House,
Nancy Pelosi.
And I don't know if she was Speaker then or former Speaker. I can't remember how the election cycles went.
Yeah.
But she's now, once again, the Speaker of the House and number 3 in our government after the President and Vice President. If something were to happen to the two of them, she would become, God forbid, the President. And of course, she's from San Francisco. She's a neighbor, almost.
Yeah.
And when she's not up in Napa, she's a neighbor of yours up in Napa, too. She's got a place up there in wine country. So that was a bit of a joke. And those of you who asked who is the lady, well, that's our Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Okay, enough on the Cup. Any other comments on the Cup before we move forward? I'm not sure it's a Dutch name, I assume.
Yeah.
Tier de Jong.
I've not
Have
seen
I
that
pronounced
name.
that anywhere close to correctly?
Yeah.
Tier de Jong.
Yeah.
Hello, sir or ma'am. I guess it's a sir. Next event should be in Auckland.
Okay.
John Emmett, UK now debating which 12 to 15-year-olds, I guess, get vaccinated. Well, and we're apparently, Julie, we're going to get booster shots. You got vaccinated in January, so you're coming up on your 8th month right now. You are in your 8th month.
Yeah.
So you're probably very soon to be eligible.
Yes, but I may wait a minute.
And I am coming up next month. I was vaccinated in February, both jabs.
Mm-hmm.
So we've decided to kind of cool it, not be going out. Except you went to the yacht club the other night, hung out, and had dinner.
Yeah, but nobody's there.
Is that right? Is the club slow?
Well,
I haven't been in a couple of weeks.
It's just there's lots of space. Let's just say everybody's is socially distanced.
Well, there's so much breakthrough. People who are double vaxxed getting this stuff, like Magnus Wheatley.
Yeah.
Like any number of our senators and so on. Well, let's not make this a COVID show. This is a good news show. Super September is here, and we'll carry on. Yes, we've had Emmett saying we've had several people in my family under 16 with, I assume he means COVID. Yeah. David Rowe is watching, and Richard Dreverman. Any numbers? Gordon Smith here in Denmark. Gordon's always got a pithy and good observation. Here in Denmark, my 14-year-old is awaiting his second shot. Current debate about vaccinating those younger than 12. Well, I think that's the same. I think, Julie, that's the same debate here, isn't
yes.
it? Whether kids.
And they're not going to make a decision until they have more information, and won't be before December, I heard today.
Yeah, well, is that right?
Mm.
Well, that makes, I think when in doubt.
Yep.
Relax. Bill Canfield's back watching. Okay, this day in history. Got a couple for you today. This first one for our Scandahuvian friends. Specifically, well, I won't give it away. On this day, the 3rd of September, in 1967. Julie, any idea what happened?
67.
Now, here's your first clue.
Yes.
It's a great photo. You see it every now and then pop up. And somebody on here will know. Gordon Smith will probably know. If Mikkel Thomassen's on, even though he's a Norwegian. And if Mark Husted is on, he'll probably know. He lives in Sweden. He's an Aussie.
Oh, is that the day they changed the direction of traffic?
Well done. You're really sharp today. You must have gotten a lot of sleep.
I did.
Last night. That is the day in 1967, 3rd of September, that they did what's called Switchover Day. Dagen, I don't know how you say H in Swedish. Kungsgatan, what does that mean? King's something gate, King's Garden, King's Gate. In Stockholm on this day, which when ABBA was formed, Stingray must have known. Yeah, Fritz Mueller has it, switch driving side on the road, and who else? Hamish Ross had it, changed driving rules. Mark Husted says Stockholm, yeah, so you all got it. Cars changing sides. Yeah, Sweden changes from left to right. Mikkel Thomassen, who is watching, is saying, well, it was an interesting, they did this like forever, planning it out. The change known as Dagen Ha, or H, in Swedish was widely unpopular and had repeatedly been voted down over the previous 40. By the way, there is a sailing connection. I'm coming to a sailing connection to this.
I'm waiting.
Tangential as it is. It had been voted down over the previous 40 years. In a 1955 referendum, 83% voted to keep driving on the left, notwithstanding that the Danes and the Norwegians and the Finns were all driving on the right. In 63, do you see the Reichstag?
Reichstag.
Well, Reichstag, I guess their parliament approved the change and established I'm not even going to try to pronounce the Statens, whatever that is, commission. Huger Traffic Commission. State Right-Hand Traffic Commission to oversee it. The commission implemented a 4-year education program. 4 years.
Began.
With the advice of psychologists. The major arguments for change were that the immediate neighbors, as we just mentioned, drove on the right, including Norway and Finland. And most Swedes drove left-hand drive vehicles, those Volvos that they're exporting to other countries. This led to many head-on collisions when passing on narrow 2-lane highways, which were common in Sweden because of its low population density and traffic levels. Now here, you ready for this? Here is the sailing connection.
Okay.
I'm not kidding you. And I want a pair of these badly. To help people remember, the government gave out thousands of pairs of driving gloves with a red left hand, don't go there, and a green right hand, so that once the switch was made, drivers would quickly build the habit of driving on the correct green glove side of the road.
Well, that's
fantastic?
It's a good idea.
I actually went on eBay to look for that.
Yeah.
I really wanted one of those bad. And if one of you has a pair and is willing to sell them for, not hundreds of dollars, but
Ports and starboards.
Exactly. Those are port and starboard gloves. They're so cool. And apparently they did this at 04:50 in the morning on a, I don't know, Sunday morning or a Saturday, and everybody had to stop for a minute or two at 04:50 and then change sides. And I don't know what this picture, I think this picture in 67 in Stockholm.
That's fun to know.
It's fun, isn't it? Okay, what are the comments? We got a bunch of comments on this one, Julia.
Oh,
Typical government program, 4 years. Mark Huss said, great help if you were colorblind. Well, yeah, but most people, I'm sure, could tell at least the brightness of one glove versus the other. Andrew Pindar, Ireland switched over too. They staggered it by having the cars start one Monday with trucks and buses joining the
Yes.
Yeah, the glove idea is great, isn't it?
Mm.
I think that is a terrific idea. Okay. Any other comments to all of that?
Your mother says, geez, Tom, buy two pairs of gloves, one green and one red.
Yeah, well, she's very practical. She's more practical than I am. Very cool. One with the gloves. Wow, only you would find such a gem. Hey. Port and starboard gloves. Also on this day, actually this week, yes, it happened yesterday, on the 2nd of September. Do you know what this is? What this is?
That's Liberty.
It is Liberty, which was the Defender in 1983, chosen by the New York Yacht Club on yesterday, this week, 2nd of September, 1983, almost 40 years ago. It's 38 years ago. Hard to believe.
Mm.
And Hamish Ross, who, as I said, is locked down and is prolific. He's written a fair bit. He's suddenly back on doing his America's Cup history stuff, Julia. And Hamish wrote, today in America's Cup history, in 83, Liberty US 40 was selected by New York Yacht Club to defend the America's Cup for the club in the 25th match. In the shadow of the controversy over the wing keel of Australia 2. The Freedom Syndicate's first two yachts, Spirit of America, which was white, US 34, and Magic, which was black, by the way, were failures and had trouble matching the 1980 winner Freedom, and as did Liberty, by the way. Another yacht was ordered and launched as Liberty, which was red. Finally, they had a yacht showing improvement over Freedom, but she continued to undergo modifications. 3 feet were cut off the boat's stern, and both the keel and the rig were moved forward in a search for more speed. Now, what Hamish didn't say is that why didn't they use Freedom? Well, they bloody well wish they could have, but they made a mistake with Freedom under the 12-meter rule. Boats and Freedom had an extraordinarily low freeboard, meaning the distance from the water to the top of the deck. And as a result, the center of gravity of the boat, the heeling moment, it was a really, really good boat. Won all 4 races, I think, in 1980 as Dennis's Defender. But they moved the forestay in Freedom after they won in 1980. Mm. And under the then 12-meter rule, if you moved the forestay and you did a few other things, the boat lost its grandfather exemption. So they couldn't use Liberty. They could not use Freedom. They had to use a new boat. JFK, Hamish continues, JFK famously said in 1961, quote, victory has 1,000 fathers. By the way, Hamish, he said victory has 100 fathers, but we won't hold you to that. He's often misquoted. But defeat is an orphan. And by the way, I looked that quote up today just because we are always careful to tell the truth, even when, one of us has done a face plant. It was no, Mom. It was not a hockey game. She didn't believe me anyway. But that it was actually a quote in a diary from a minister of Mussolini's in Italy in World War II, but that's another issue. And probably was used back in the, who knows, hundreds, thousands of years ago. Victory has lots of fathers, and we probably say these days mothers, but defeat is an orphan. Liberty was used as a trial yacht for the successful Stars and Stripes campaign to win back the Cup in 87, kind of, after she was sold from San Diego to a Japanese owner in 89, but was reported to have been lost off the coast of Kobe, Japan. They should have brought the beef, not the boat, a few years later. Now, an update, Hamish says, from Rob Fry, another one of our FOSI. The FOSI are so well connected, so smart. Rob Fry, who's Leo Takahashi's dad, Rob Fry, after some sleuthing in Japan, Liberty was scrapped, Rob Fry asserts, after her owner got into financial difficulty sometime in the early 1990s. Hamish says a sad end to a yacht whose America's Cup history deserved better. Liberty helps to form a well-known America's Cup superstition that red is an unlucky America's Cup yacht color. In fact, yacht color in general. You know what other America's Cup yacht was famously red?
No.
Ted Turner's Mariner.
Oh.
His defense candidate, which is the one that had the squared off trailing the bustle in the back, was squared off, and then Ted Turner went to the designer of that boat, who was Britton Chance, a brilliant yacht designer, but he had tried the tank testing that he'd done, the scaling hadn't worked out properly, and he thought squaring it off was going to be really fast, and it wasn't. And Ted said famously to Britt Chance, even a turd is pointed at both ends. And ever since then, the late great Britt Chance was known as Shitty Britty. Sorry, I couldn't help it.
Oh, poor thing.
Liberty helps to form a well-known America's Cup superstition that red is unlucky. Now look, there's some more, because some of the other FOSI weighed in on this thread that Hamish posted on Facebook last night. John Lamberts von Buren, who's a very smart guy over in Europe. There was no loophole. The class, they're talking about certificates, and the fact that Liberty had more than one measurement certificate. And it was an assertion that the loophole allowed that to happen. Well, it wasn't a loophole, it was that the New York Yacht Club committee permitted it. There was no loophole. The class rule has always allowed only one certificate. The Liberty Syndicate approached the New York Yacht Club selection committee with an idea to maximize their chances of winning by having multiple rating certificates. They would change their configuration on any given day to suit the conditions. So early in the morning, the ballast and markings would match of their 3 certificates. Very early in the morning, a team would go down and make the ballast changes and spray the appropriate marks on the boat. Lacquer marks are usually removed with the appropriate thinner. Now, this is from Jim Gretzky, who's a 12-meter, esteemed 12-meter naval architect and 12-meter designer. Jim goes on to say, Jim Gretzky, the game was discovered when the project manager for the neighboring Defender Courageous group, who had the other 2 boats in the defense trials, went to their site very early one morning and saw what was going on. A complaint protest to the selection committee was answered with, quote, "Yes, we know, and they had our permission," unquote. Unlike the Challenger trials, the U.S. held a selection overseen, as most of you America's Cup aficionados will know, overseen by the America's Cup Committee of the New York Yacht Club. There were no formal notice of race or SIs. Races would be run until they chose a defender. Along the way, teams would be, quote, excused when the committee felt that they did not help the cause. Races would be shortened at will by the committee, and more. So those multiple certificates, when that became public, you can imagine if you're out, Julie, you're racing against a yacht, and on a given day it performs completely different than the day before. And Tom Blackaller and Jobson, all those guys were scratching their heads. What the heck is going on here?
Right.
The boat's heavier or it's lighter. They weren't quite sure. It's stiffer. It's not as stiff. And they were changing certificates day to day, which they continued to do right through the Cup, because you could do that. You had to get remeasured. We finally outlawed that in the 12-meter class, and then later in the IACC class, because it was a measurement.
John Evatt has a comment which says, black is fastest due to heating effects on the surrounding air.
I'm not an engineer or a naval architect, but that has been disproven any number. And now at the speeds we're talking about, maybe at much higher speeds. So that whole thread was from Jim Gretzky. Those last 2 pages, Jim Gretzky, an esteemed naval architect in Newport, Rhode Island, 12-meter designer. Did Chance design Clipper? Fritz Miller's asking. I don't know. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Even sailors look for an advantage. I don't like red boats anyway, my mother is saying. So there it is. There is Liberdog, as they ended up calling it, towing out behind their stablemate, their tune-up boat, Freedom, which, of course, they couldn't use because of they lost the grandfathered claw, the grandfather clause for that low. You can see the difference in the freeboards, I think, even in this, how much higher Liberty is, the deck is relative to Freedom, the blue boat.
Yep.
Now, for extra credit, does anyone on here know the name of the tender, of Dennis's tender in 1983?
Oh, gosh, no.
John Emmett saying you want to confuse someone in fleet racing, paint one side of your boat white and the other side black. Sangmeister, who's on here, and he knows the name of that boat. We almost sank Liberty off Oahu. He's talking about using Liberty as a training in boat, a trial horse in Hawaii leading up to the 87 Cup. He was a member of that team. John Emmett, it may explain recent 100-meter sprint record holder. It was a time when black spinnakers were thought faster. Lightning class heat helps it fly. Yeah, okay, I think that was a thesis about boat color, which you can read. And yes, at the speeds current AC boats go, it is irrelevant. Thank you, John Emmett.
Mm-hmm.
John Sangmeister rightly names the name of that tender. It was called Fire 3. Finger wag Stingray. Yeah, that was Stingray. That was edgy. Warren Schasser, don't know if it's just me, but the show keeps getting interrupted and has been for a couple of weeks. Again, as far as we know, everything is rock solid here. And my mother and others discovered that if you are watching, go push on that red live button, and that somehow helps. We've not seen that anywhere, but if you push on the red live button, that's somewhere on it supposedly helps. And if you're having problems, we apologize again, because we're showing absolutely nominal everything here. Low CPU usage, solid 30 frames a second, 4,000 kilobits of streaming speed, and absolutely no problems whatsoever. Did John Lambert's Van Buren, who is on, hello, John, did the New York Yacht Club sponsor the scrapping of Liberty? There's a lot of clever comments on here today, Julia.
Mm-hmm.
I think that as you heard from Rob Fry, apparently they just Peter Taylor says broadcast is rock solid this episode in New York City. Thanks, Peter. Working fine here on so Rob Fry is on as well.
Oh, good.
Nice.
Yeah.
So for extra credit, if John Sangmeister, and he's correct, if the name of Dennis's tender was Fire 3, what was the name of the tender for Defender Courageous? This is a bit of America's Cup trivia that I doubt, except maybe Sangmeister knows this. It was Arthur Wolfschlager's Big Hatteras. Anybody know the name of Arthur Wolfschlager's tender, his Hatteras, which was the tender to Defender Courageous?
I have no idea.
You get ready with your finger wag.
Yes.
Well, this is clean. It was called Fire 1. This boat was Fire 3. His was Fire 1, WUN. And I won't say the first part of it. It was FYRE.
Oh.
It was FU
Yeah.
Ratsy.
Yeah.
It was FYR, in fact. FU Ratsy, which is one of the big sail makers. WUN, we use North. FYR, WUN. Because Ratsy was the big supplier, and they couldn't get Ratsy sails, so it was FYR, WUN. FU Ratsy. I said you get your finger ready, Julia. Shake your finger.
Well, it's obscure enough so that unless you're on the inside, you wouldn't know that.
Okay. A fairly dark shade. Okay, they're talking about a dark shade of gray with that live button, whatever it is. Shall we press on? That's this week in history, the fateful choice by the New York Yacht Club. And they really didn't have any choice. It was the best boat of the lot. And they still almost won. That series in 83 was 4-3.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Dennis and Tom Wooden and co., Billy Trinkle, that gang, Halsey Harrisoff, kept it that close. And for extra credit, John Sangmeister will also know this. Do you remember in race, what was it, 2, I think it was, on the way out to the bumpy race course, the Liberty gang broke one of their jumper struts up at the top of the mast. Mm. You've got spreaders that are up, and then at the top to control the bend of the top of the mast, like on a Lightning, you've got jumper struts. So one of those jumper struts, which has a hydraulic ram on it to help control, broke. Mm. And they had to run a replacement. They didn't have a replacement out on the water because those things didn't ever really break. So they ran a replacement jumper strut out to them on the water, and then somebody was up the mast for 35, 40 minutes replacing the thing, and it getting banged against the rig and so on. And what was the name of the boat that took that jumper strut out? Sangmeister knows. It was called Rhonda. Next page, next day, front page of the Boston Globe.
Yeah.
Big headline with picture of the boat. Help me, Rhonda. Help, help. Remember the old Beach Boys song?
Yeah.
Help me, Rhonda. Help me, Rhonda. Come on, we're going to write a book about all this America's Cup trivia.
I was once at the top of a mast doing that in a rolling sea and ended up being very black and blue.
Well, I wonder if I could have used that as an excuse. Makeup's not too bad. My red eyes notwithstanding. Okay, the show's not about us, Julia. It's about the news of our beloved sport. And speaking of which, one of our great contributors, John Emmett.
Yes.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the FOSI. Hope you're feeling well, especially Tom. Wishing him a speedy recovery. Billy said he looked a bit scary in the last show, so we see what the wonders of makeup can do.
Thanks,
Still
John.
recording without a gimbal, so do my best here and hopefully going to get full set up fairly soon. I did ring up to see what was happening to my phone. Apparently the parts made in Vietnam and COVID shut the factory for a month, so just bear with me. I'm going to talk a little bit about youth sailing here, but ironically I'm at Queen Mary Sailing Club, a very active club actually inside the M25 ring in London, very close to Heathrow actually, and it's just off the M3 and very, very popular, especially with the master sailors. They've got a professional staff here, and I'm here for Masters Qualifier because that's the fairest way of doing things. So everybody has to qualify to go to the Worlds and the Europeans next year, which I'm hoping to do. In fact, I'm still hoping to go this year, but with events in November, of course, nothing is guaranteed. So the Masters events are great at just retaining those guys in the UK in the over 33 age group, because a lot of people dip out of sport between, say, 23 and 33 when work and young families and things take over. But the future of the sport is definitely youth sailing, and hopefully there's a wonderful video going to be played later on in the show just showing all the youngsters coming through, and there's such a nice little group in the UK. They're sort of early 20s all working hard together, so you can see the success coming. But the generation after that, they're the people who are in Optimists or the Cadets, wonderful little two-man boat we have here at Castle Cove, where I spend a lot of my time in Portland Harbour with a whole range of boats sailed, and it's the young sailors who are the future of the class. And this is why I've been so keen in recent years just to help with the media, because we just need to get the message out there what a fun and great sport sailing is, and how accessible it is. We have, you can rent a boat for £5 at a lot of the clubs, and the Andrew Simpson Centre, and I'll talk about that more in a couple of weeks' time, has done an awful lot to get kids off the water from quite deprived backgrounds, literally bringing in busloads of them. And that's in memory of the very great late Andrew Simpson. And the founder is his helm, Ian Percy, and also I think Paul Goodison, a number of very good people on the board there, and they've just done so much to encourage sailing. And one of their centres is, of course, based in by the Weymouth and Portland National Sailing Academy. So I think the media is such a good thing. It amazes me how many shows Tom and Julia can do. I find doing the Restart Sailing shows pretty hard, and we've gone down to one a month now because people are so busy with events, but that media is very important. And I just wanted to say a thank you and a goodbye to Daniel Smith at World Sailing. He's done over 10 years, and I think he's done a lot of great work as the communications officer. He's stepping down, and I think that is just such an important role going forward, and that's what's going to encourage the youths. So I think onwards and upwards for sailing, but we have to make sure we don't take anything for granted. Thank you.
Thanks, John Emmett. And at least I shave before I go on the air. I may have black eyes, a bloodied nose, and a bloodied lip even. But thanks, John. His reports are very popular, aren't they, Julia?
They are, and informative. I don't know anything about almost anything he's talking about, so I like it.
Well, it's nice to, it's nice when we get somebody on from down under or from Europe with a little bit different perspective than ours. Yeah, it's tough doing these shows, but it's fun. And of course, we don't have nearly as much to do as John does, who's competing in the Masters trials this weekend. He's trying out at Queen Mary. I mean, he's been the Masters world champion in his age group for I don't know how many times in the laser class, the Ilka 7. And he was reporting there from the Queen Mary Sailing Club, which is a very cool club. Just you see out there south of Heathrow, you look on the map, there's Heathrow, and due south is the Queen Mary Sailing Club, which is just on the north side of this big reservoir. It's a big, beautiful reservoir. Luckily, the flights normally come in from the east or from the west, so you don't see or hear many flights. You can hear them, but they're not coming right over the lake. And of course, it's not far from London. This is inside the M3 and inside the M25, so you can see it's inside the ring and pretty close to London, which is why it's such a popular place to sail. That is the Queen Mary Sailing Club, Queen Mary Reservoir. Mm-hmm. And there's also a Queen Mother Reservoir out there. I asked John this morning when we were talking much earlier this morning when he sent his report in, why is it called the Queen Mary Reservoir? And he said, I don't know. It's just what we do over here. We name things after our kings and queens and other royals. So much for that. There's got to be a reason why. But the Queen Mary Reservoir and the Queen Mary Sailing Club, a very cool club. To wit, a video. Just again, we're talking about how good yacht racing is, particularly dinghy racing is in the offshore racing. I witness what Andrew McIrvin reports on. But watch, I'm not going to play this whole video, but this is a promotional video for the Queen Mary Sailing Club on this reservoir out there next to Heathrow. Have a look. 3,000 students attend courses each year.
That's amazing.
It is just amazing. I just continue to be so impressed with what goes on in the UK. In fact, I'm trying to think of any club anywhere that has a promotional video. I'm sure there are some. West London's largest sailing school, an RYA high performance sailing club. I don't know any club that's got a video like this. There probably are some, as I said, but great stuff. Bravo Zoo. And another thing John said this, our clients come back year after year. Another thing John said this morning, nice thing about going to Queen Mary's is that you show up there, there's a staff, but there's also a bunch of people sailing all the time, it seems like. So if you need to get your boat off the top of the car or you need help launching or something, there's always people around, kids and older folks, to help you do it. You don't have to show up at his club where he says you're never sure if anybody's going to be there. Look at that. So we have this at clubs. We have it at St. Francis. We have it at a lot of clubs. And just a nice video. I commend it to you in the St. Mary's Sailing Club. I see that our resident airline pilot expert on here, Jonathan Frank, is saying that actually the western departures go almost right over the reservoir. So you see it when you look down. Nice video.
Yes, and the good music to it, too.
Indeed. Okay, we're a minute 18 in. I'm going to skip. Oh, that's the end of the video, I guess. Nice stuff. Now, while we're continuing, we're talking about the cadet class and what's going on. They had their nationals, and again, just to focus in for ideas for wherever in the world you are, look at this video. And this is a video world. This is what kids watch. They don't watch and read. They don't read Magnus Wheatley. They don't read stuff that we all write, even on Facebook. They look at Instagram because it's all basically photos and videos. Here's another video that is just, I think, is astonishing, put out by the cadet class, the double-handed kind of ladder class in the UK after the Opti, and they just had their nationals. Look at this. This is a preview of that event that they just had in Torquay, Brixton Yacht Club. Okay, I could do without the music, but they're going to be back in Torquay in 2022 for the cadet class, and it's a terrific video. But better yet still, look at this claim from their website, from the cadet. And if that isn't the cheekiest, coolest claim I've ever seen, you'll never forget your first cadet. Julia, you can shake your finger at that. You'll never forget your first cadet. And it's true. I mean, there's a class that's with it. I don't know who the volunteers, who the leaders are that run that class. Emmett will know, and others of you who are on the UK. And yeah, there's great stuff going on, as Gordon Smith is at the KDY and at clubs all around the world. The clubs, the CYCA and the Royal Freshwater Bay and Royal Prince Alfred down in Australia, just to name three, the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron and their academy, training academy, San Diego Yacht Club, the clubs here in the Northeast and St. Francis and so on. But this stuff that goes on in the UK, and this is why they win Olympic medals year after year after year. And you just, you bottle it up and ship it around the world if you could, if you would. John Emmett, I did a huge amount of cadet coaching in the early aughts, he's saying. Lots of thumbs up for what we're saying. Rosemary Metzger, a lot of new names on here. I heard Gordon Smith, that's a pithy comment. I'm not going to repeat it. Neil Collingridge, made by Alice Thorogood using photos from our resident photographer, Tim Hampton. Love these kids. It is a nice. Bravo Zulu to them. Bravo Zulu. And Gordon Smith saying, I do wish Anne Marie Moore could, I know her brother could appear here on with you. We'll get Anne Marie on. What she has been doing for KDY, the Royal Danish Yacht Club in Copenhagen, is fantastic. Yeah, good stuff. Mark Hill used to be at the QM, the Queen Mary, in the early days when it was just a shed. Winter series there, and summer HI, I guess Hailing Island Sailing Club, Mark Hill story. Yeah, I've sailed there. We actually had, during IYRU week, we had some kind of an event there, and went out to QM, the Queen Mary Sailing Club, and did something in, I can't remember what kind of boats it was in. I'll think of it. Long time ago. Gordon Smith, not far from my old IBM office, which was in the James Bond movie, is an evil media mogul's office. And just a couple other comments I wanted to mention before we go forward. John could do the comms job at World Center. Yeah, we're going to talk about the departing Daniel Smith. I also had a convo with him. Working hard to get kids off the water. John, you only had one simple job to do. Okay, that deserves a shaking of fingers from all of us. Back to boat names for a sec, Clark Chapin mentioned, Julia, a name of a famous name of a boat in Detroit called Fujimo, Fujimo, which was a cheeky name for a guy was divorcing his wife, and he named his boat F.U. Jane, I'm moving out, Fujimo. And he won a few Mackinac races with that boat, too. Gosh. Okay. What else do we have here? There's so much going on. I call it Super September with good reason, because you've got the moths Worlds going on at Garda now, and this is Nikolai Jakobsen, who I think is Mikkel Thomas would know. I think Mikkel's on here, and I think Mikkel ran this picture or similar in sailmagazinenet.no. Great picture of Nikolai Jakobsen.
Mm-hmm.
He won the pre-worlds. They list him on the regatta websites as being from Hong Kong, but I wonder if he is not Scandinavian, either Swedish or Norwegian. But nice going. Emmett saying, I also struggle to remember Ian Percy's real name rather than nickname. Yeah. Okay. Mark Hill, anyone else here remember the Carlsberg Windsurfer team racing series, 10 boats a team around the London clubs? Yes, I remember. I never participated, of course, but I remember hearing about it. But this, back to the pre-worlds and now the worlds, which is going on through this weekend. This is day 2, and look at the names of these sailors. Tom Slingsby and Jensen Goobs, Paul Goodison, Goody, Kyle Langford, Nathan Outeridge. I didn't spell his name right, but close. And then some other names I don't recognize, down to 9th place Phil Robertson, who is he's a Kiwi, but he like a lot of people have Swedish girlfriends now living in Göteborg. And then the famous Francesco Bruni in 10th, who, as you know, was co-helm with Jimmy Spithill of Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. But just and they've got something. Mark Husted, thanks for sending me the links and keep me posted. Something like 130 boats in the Moth Worlds at Garda. Just look at this. And they had a video. They had a really cool video, but they had music which was copyright protected. I couldn't use it. I wanted to use the video, and I now have to test these shows ahead of time, the videos, to be sure it's not copyrighted music. Otherwise, we'll get knocked off the air and get a copyright strike and tell me what. But they have, I commend it to you. Go to their Facebook page, Moth Worlds 2021 at Lake Garda, and they've got some videos. We should know the results today. Well, these are, Mark, what I was just showing you, what Mark Husted sent me, are the results at the end of day 2, and you can see Tom Slingsby sailing Johnny Drama for the Gosford Sailing Club. And you see Nathan Outeridge, who's a neighbor of Jody Shields, at the Wanji Sailing Club. But see the name of Slingsby's boat up there on the top line? Johnny Drama. Now, you have to be, and I'm not, you have to be really with it to get that. That's a cultural reference to a television show about some people in New York City and one of the boroughs, Queens, I think Queens. And several people got it and know about that show. Have you ever heard of that show, Julia?
No, I'm sorry, I haven't.
Johnny Drama. It's there, I actually had to go read that this morning to see and be sure it was clean. I didn't know what it was before I brought it up. But bravo Zulu to them. This is Super September. It is just an amazing month for the sport. Things are going on all over the place, including, speaking of Wanji, including this, which I thought somebody was pulling my leg when it was sent to me earlier in the week. And I commend to you the newest winger. This is a FOSI sailing look, it gets it up on the foil. This is one of his first attempts, if not his first attempt at wing foiling. Any idea who that is, Julia? I was told, and I didn't believe it. Is it correct or Crutonic that is Jody Winger Shields?
Oh, really?
Is it correct or Crutonic? I could be pulling your leg. Somebody could have been pulling my leg too. Is that correct or Crutonic? Dreverman's watching Canfield. Random fact, Nick Rogers and his son, a little named Danger. There's lots of big smiles here. Gordon Smith says it's correct.
Oh, good.
David Bray says it's correct. Well, it is correct. That is Jody Shields. It's correct. He's a winger now. Correct. Ted Ryman says it's correct. I think Jody sent this. You know, we have this community now. These are people, none of us knew each other 2, 3, 4 years ago. And now everybody, you know, at least by reputation and,
Right.
and by. So bravo Zulu to Jody, who's now a winger.
Lots of cracks there. Yeah.
Now I'll tell you something else, Julie. You probably know this as well, but we have a regatta here that happened, I guess, over the past weekend, called the Bridge to Bridge. That was sponsored by Ronstadt. If Alistair Murray, who's the whatever he is now, he's no longer
Chairman of the
CEO,
board
but
or
he's
something.
chairman now. I don't know. He's still the guru of Ronstadt Marine. And Ronstadt sponsors a thing called the Bridge to Bridge Fiasco. I think it's called a Bridge to Bridge something.
Yeah.
And it's been a kite foiling race from the Golden Gate Bridge around the city front down to the Bay Bridge. And it's all downwind on a windy day this time of year. And it was last weekend. And Johnny Heineken and the other kiters usually win it. They do it in some astonishing number, like
4 minutes or something.
Well, maybe 14, but it's, you know, that's a long ways. If you can imagine, Golden Gate Bridge all the way around the corner of the city to the Bay Bridge, and they're going 30 plus knots. Well, now they have the IQ foils. They have these foiling windsurfers also in the race. In fact, this year's had 3 classes. They were all foil-borne boats. And what was the biggest class in its first year? The wing foils.
Yeah.
This, excuse me, this wing foil that we just saw Jody sailing, telling you it's the coming thing. It's way more popular, way less expensive. And obviously, if Jody, well, this is no criticism of Jody. Huh? But look, he got it up and he got the thing. And, you know, Jody's a big boy. He got it up. He did a couple pumps, and we should go back and look. I'll go back and look at that video one more time. There's a puff there. You can see the windward up. He's up on the foil. Easy peasy. And away he goes.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Very.
It is correct that is our dear friend Jody. And Kersplash. He's probably going to go in there and have a cocktail on that cruising boat. Nice stuff.
Yep.
Right?
Right.
It is correct that is our FOSI and good friend Jody Shields. Andrew Pindar says, hope people will have seen the women's moth camp ahead of the moth world. A great take-up by 16 top. Yes, I did see that, Andrew, and I didn't see any pictures or press on it. I'm sure there was some. A great take-up by 16 top female sailors and a huge development for the class, driven by Luca Rizzotti. The video showed that. I think the video, which I couldn't play because their music was not copyright free, driven by Luca Rizzotti, who was on the show with Andrew not too long ago, and Andrew did his report on Foiling Week, also from Lake Garda, a month or so ago.
Yeah.
The Magenta Project, on whose board
Andrew.
I'm just reading the rest of that Andrew serves, and chair of the International Moth class is Luca Rizzotti, who, as some of you will remember, was on here. 3-bridge fiasco and the bridge to bridge are different. Yeah, Paul Homchick, not the bridge to bridge fiasco. There's the 3-bridge fiasco, which is a big boat, single and double-handed race. And then the bridge to bridge, which is just this race we told you about this past week.
3-bridge is fun because you can take the bridges in any order.
Right. And that's a big part of the challenge, is
right.
to look at the currents and the breeze and decide. They start in front of Golden Gate Yacht Club, just down the way from St. Francis, and then you have to go to a buoy in front of each of those 3 bridges. It's a cool race.
Yeah,
but you can go in any order.
Yep. And you have to know your tides and your winds very well.
Can he hold his beer while winging? Peter Taylor wants to know. Jody, if you're on here, we need to know. That would be the test. Peter Taylor. Winging is the laser sailing of board foiling. Now, there is a mouthful. John Emmett is saying. Winging is the laser sailing of board foiling. Ted Ryman says, Jody's already got a beer in one hand. Mark Husted, Nina is using Kyle's old boat. I think he means Nina at the foiling part. Different fiascos, I see. David James here in the Bay Area. Best yacht names in order. Jujimo, I guess he meant Fujimo. Endeavor, Intrepid, Marietta. Handicap. I need one after that for sure. Well, it's great to see Jody doing that. But the fact that Jody, I'm serious, the fact that Jody is doing that is an indication this is something that other good sailors like Jody can probably do.
Yes. And
even people of advanced age. Probably Peter Stevenson is doing it or will be. Whereas kiting is a whole different animal, and I don't see that taking off at clubs. And as you heard John Emmett say, in our last show, on our Tuesday show. It's all about club racing. It's what goes on at Queen Mary. It's what goes on at my little club in Michigan where Clark Chapin is hanging out, Portage Yacht Club. And if you can't do it at Royal Canadian Yacht Club, if you can't do it at the club, it's, why are we doing it? Basically, if it's not popular at the clubs, if it becomes so elite and so expensive that you can't do a class or an event, if it's not popular at your club, why do it? Okay, I'm ranting, but why not? Now, Super September continues, and if Andrew McIrvin is probably partying right now down in Sardinia, but this is a preview of this cool event also happening this week.
That'd be great.
Clear emerald
to
waters.
go to.
A spectacular
I've been on the jury for
archipelago
this.
of islets
you?
and islands.
Oh, neat.
A sailing
So beautiful.
paradise.
It's like going through the gates of sailing heaven.
I don't think there is another race like this one in all the planet.
First held in 1980, the Maxi Yacht Rolex Cup gathers together sailing's elite for the most significant annual meeting of the world's most powerful and fastest maxi yachts. Rolex has been partner to both the organisers, the Yacht Club Costa Smeralda, and the regatta for over 3 decades. Racing is keenly contested. Margins are minimal. Mistakes are ruthlessly punished. Across an exacting 5 days of racing, it is the most consistent crews who prevail across different classes. Off and on the water, the event is renowned for professionalism, innovation, and a first-class location. An essential date on the yachting calendar, the 31st edition of the Maxi Yacht Rolex Cup commences September 5th.
They're beautiful.
So that's starting, day after tomorrow. I think September 5th. And I assume that Andrew McIrvin is down there because he is Secretary General of the IMA, as most of you will know. But Super September continues on the 11th. This very cool event that's been going on for 20 years, they call it Sail for Pride, is hosted by Sail Newport in Newport, Rhode Island. It was started after the 9/11. The community of sailors in Newport, Rhode Island plans to race around Connecticut Island on the 11th, so in 8 days. In the 20th anniversary of Sail for Pride, the event was founded 20 years ago in the weeks following the 9/11 terrorist attacks. And the 2001 Sail for Pride, nearly 200 boats raced or cruised around the island, flew their ensigns in a show of national support, yada, yada, raised a lot of money. After the remarkable event, one of the co-founders, local sailor Scott Murray, rallied fellow sailors, families, and friends and crews together and vowed to hold the event every year because he said, lest we forget, 2 decades later, the sailing community has gathered every year except once when the weather forced a cancellation. It was a hurricane, I think, or the remnants of a hurricane, to race and date. And to date has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for over a dozen charities. Bravo Zoo, Sail Newport. Also coming up, the 11th through the 18th, is New York Yacht Club's Invitational Cup. This is what, the 4th running? 5th running? I can't remember. 7th running, thank you. The Rolex New York Yacht Club there it is, 7th edition of this historic International Yacht Club Challenge. It takes place every other year. They're now doing it in the IC-37s, same as the yachts that are being used up in Canada this week and for the Royal Canadian Yacht Club in the Canada's Cup and Youngstown Yacht Club. So this is the second time that these IC-37s are being used. These boats will once again provide the ultimate platform for high-energy amateur sailing on a completely level, one-design platform. So the preliminary regatta includes 3 days of optional racing, practice rather, beginning September 8th, and registration, yada, yada, through the 11th. There's dinners, there's awards. The sport is back in force, as I said in the promo for this show, and again, Bravo Zulu to New York Yacht Club for that event. Back in Europe, Classics Week. The 15th Monaco Classic Week, La Belle Classe, expects around 100 sailing and motorboats to descend on the Yacht Club de Monaco's marina 8th through the 12th of September, bringing all the pageantry and color of a bygone era. Have a look. sure a lot of you have been there or seen photos and videos before. But this, if you haven't been there and if you ever get the chance, by all means go. It is a fabulous, fabulous event, to say nothing of the evening affairs. Power and sailing.
Majestic, as they say.
Ed Worley saying, wow, crews sailing large boats and races. This is what I miss in the cup races.
So does everybody else except.
Yep, except some professional sailors. So that's coming up, as I say, in Super September. There's just so much going on. The best month, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, for most weather conditions around the world. And now, Congressional Cup. So what's Congressional Cup all about? Well, COVID is also taking a bit of a toll on Con Cup. What's happening in the 56th Congressional is the most exciting, top-notch, okay, this is a little bit of PR palaver, but top-notch yacht racing to take place on America's shores this year. The grandfather of match racing, Congressional Cup, was founded in '65 by Long Beach Yacht Club, where organizers revolutionized the game of match racing with on-the-water umpiring in 1988. I wonder who did that. The only Grade 1 match race in the U.S. and a championship event on the World Match Racing Tour. The regatta is raced on a fleet of identical 37-foot Catalina keel boats, quite the opposite of the boats being used. The IC-37s being used by New York Yacht Club in their racing and up at Canada's Cup. These old Catalina keel boats are still great match racing boats, and they are equalized to fairly well by LBYC, which guarantees an even platform and thrilling competition. Last-minute snags have defending champion Ian Williams of Great Britain withdrawing. Again, this is the whole COVID thing. It's not so much getting here as it is getting home and then having to sit through 2 weeks of quarantine. In addition to Phil Robertson of New Zealand and Nick Egnott Johnson, also of New Zealand, all of Phil's living in Göteborg, as we mentioned a minute ago, or at least he was. Taking their places will be Chris Poole, who just, by the way, won the match racing, the World Match Racing Tour event at in Oyster Bay.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was a nice win by Chris Poole. And right off a win in the Oak Cliff, oh, there it is, in Oak Cliff International Regatta. And Dustin Durant, who must be the son of one of the Durants that are famously old friends, a three-time Congressional Cup veteran and LBYC representative. Final berths will be filled by Ficker Cup, the top trio of finishers in Ficker Cup. So Ficker Cup is a feeder regatta, which has been going on for years. And Jeffrey Peterson, David Wood, and others who out of Youth Match Racing, Gov Cup, and the World Youth Match Racing fame will be sailing in Ficker Cup, named after the late, great Bill Ficker, to see if they can qualify to actually also sail in Congressional Cup. So that in the Star Worlds is happening in Kiel, I think next week, or is it already happening? There is so much going on. Super September is delivering in spades.
It's great. It's nice to see the sails.
As Clark Chapin is saying, the Cat 37s, Catalina 37s are great match racing boats because they have symmetrical spinnakers. Also, Clark, a good point. Gordon Smith, EU has just downgraded travel to from the U.S. Downgraded, what does that mean, Gordon? Does that mean it's easier or more difficult? Mark Husted, I think that clashes with Sail GP for Phil. Yep, so sad Ian and Phil won't be there. John Emmett is saying, indeed. Morris Stevens, who's up in Canada, there is nothing like sailing a classic wooden yacht, majestic. I think we all agree with that, Maura. David James, I should add, perhaps that I'm willing to pay. I will pay $1 into some general fund that stops the quick cut So, yeah. Okay, so that Congressional Cup video is, unlike some of the others, is just too MTV-esque and too quick cut. I agree. And David and I, we can't stop it. But again, before we move off this segment into our final Whiskey Tango Foxtrot segment, I encourage all of you in your clubs, find a kid who is a YouTuber. There are YouTubers galore now. These kids have their vlog cameras, their vlog, video blog cameras, and they're really getting good at going around shooting A-roll, which is the real stuff, talking head stuff and stuff, and then B-roll, which is just background and beauty shots, B-roll, putting it all together, putting some music together, and whether it's quick cut like David James is, I think, properly criticizing or not too happy with, or not, but this is a video world. Live streaming's hard. I'm not saying you ought to go out and run and do a live stream, but it's not rocket science, but it's not easy. And now that we've done 450 of them, we're hopefully getting a little bit better. But in your clubs, to promote sailing, you've got to do video. And you got to shoot video like we've just seen of these events. Okay, I'd stop. Mark Husted, you only die once, you should live every day. Yeah, that was a Peanuts and Snoopy thing, You only, what was it? You only die once, but you live every day. I guess it was essentially the quote that Jody Shields is saying. Okay, our final block, the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot block. Now, Julia, get your finger ready because submissions from some of our FOSI are
suspect.
No, they're more than suspect.
Oh,
they're cretonic.
Oh,
but they're funny, so I've gone with them. Okay, first of all, my mother and others asked, "What the hell was this on my Facebook page?" It was a cover photo, and as a lot of you know, I put things up as clues and just without elucidating or elaborating. This is the new variant, the COVID variant, called, depending on how you M or mu, or it's the Greek, obviously, mu, like the cat does a mu, and that is the latest and perhaps scariest variant that we've all been reading about. Came out of apparently South America, for those of you watching down there. That's why that was on my Facebook page. It took click it or ticket to get people to wear a seatbelt. I wonder if mask it or casket might work. And of course, there's still continuing controversy about whether a mask is good or not. I'm one who, Julie, I don't know about you, but I err in favor of wearing one.
Yes.
It's, you get in the car and take it off. But if it does, with breakthrough COVID, if somehow it stops me from infecting somebody else, then okay, I'm not sure it's going to protect me. Click it or ticket, mask it or casket. Now, here's a funny one. Here's an antivirus mask for smokers. Right? Come on. Isn't that funny?
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you didn't like that one, you're sure to like this one. I'm fully vaccinated and ready to date again.
Whee!
Now, that's okay, isn't it?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
It took
It takes a minute, yeah.
When that was, I think Ted Ryman said, I can't remember who sent it to me. When that first was sent to me, it took me a little time to get why that was funny. Now, here is one that is, this came from, and I guess I won't say who sent it to us. And he's an Aussie, and he said, we'd never try to get away with this in Australia, but those Palms, they get away with it, no problem, from ITV.
But it's going to be hot this weekend, so you might not want to cover up with a T-shirt. You might want to wear a little swimsuit.
What?
Perhaps. Oh, yes. Behind you, we have two very gorgeous.
Oh, good gracious.
Oh, wow.
The Harry and Meghan swimsuits.
No, the Harry one.
The Harry one is all wrong.
I know.
It's where the beard is.
It's his beard is very
It's
wrong.
the beard,
He's
it's
been
not
very
right.
brave about
Oh,
that.
no. What the hell were they thinking?
I know. You should have just moved his face up a bit, don't you think?
Yes.
I mean, just shifted it up a bit. Anyway,
I think they might have known what they were doing there, actually.
I think they knew. Those are £38 from bagsoflove.co.uk. They're ready in 1 to 2 days, so you
Julia,
can order yours for
you
the
can wag
weekend.
your finger if you
still
want.
get them in
It's not anyone's face.
That's from this morning on ITV in the UK.
Oh.
And I will tell you that, I will say it too, that came from Peter Stevenson from Page Foiling Sailor. And I didn't play it on Tuesday. He said, after the show, he texted me. So why didn't you play that thing I sent you? Because I told him I would.
Yeah.
And I said, well, we were commemorating the on the day in history of Diana's death. So and I didn't think it was appropriate to run it.
No.
And okay, so much for Whiskey Tango Fox Trot. Clark Chapin, amazing the tensile strength in these new miracle fabrics. David James saying that is not okay. Gordon Smith saying it's frightening. Ted Ryman. There's a lot of thumbs up and hearts and laugh. Okay, we got to laugh. We got to laugh. Okay, the finish line. Couple segments. First of all, congratulations, Bravo Zulu, to Seahorse Magazine. They have just published. It doesn't seem like a lot, Julie, but publishing an issue is a lot harder than doing a live show. They've done 500 issues. And Magnus Wheatley wrote this morning, I think, either last night or this morning on his Rule 69 blog, some say it's the combined age of the editorial team. All we know is that Seahorse is 500 issues young and fitter than ever. The Bible of Grand Prix yacht racing, the only piece of mail that elicits a frisson of excitement. The best, very best columnists, the greatest photography, the acute snippets, the wit, the humor, the serious, the celebratory, the campaigning, the magazine for those in the know, those on the outside, the dreamers, the pros, the curious, the wannabes, the also-rans. Congratulations, Seahorse, on a magnificent milestone. We want to echo that. We read, I read Seahorse. I'm not sure Julia does every month, but we read it and celebrate it. And it's you can get it electronically. You don't have to wait for it to come in the snail mail. Now you can, and have been able to 4 years to get it digitally, electronically. And I obviously didn't rehearse reading that, but that great prose from Magnus.
Yes.
Wheatley. Thanks, Magnus. And as John Emmett said, we also want to thank, after 10 years, the retiring Daniel Smith, who joined World Sailing, then ISAF, in 2011. And he's been, I won't say the long-suffering communications manager. He started out as the website and media coordinator, and he's now has been the comms director. Today is his last day at what is now World Sailing. He's aged a little bit, but not, he's still, and by the way, he's a hockey player.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Can't be all bad.
We texted back and forth this morning, and a serious hockey player. He's a Brit. I thought for some reason he was an Aussie, but he's not. He's a Brit. He's an ice hockey player, has played semi-pro ice hockey. He's on the board of one of their hockey organizations. But Daniel Smith is retiring, and he sent an email to Mikkel Thomason and myself and a few others. And I know Mikkel holds him in equally high esteem, as do I. Probably Magnus does as well, Magnus Wheatley and Richard Gladstone. I wanted to let you all know that today is my final day at World Sailing as Director of Communications and Digital. I have had a great 10.5 years at the organization, and the time was right for me to move on and tackle something new. And he does have something new. He's moving on to something called Teleo, a cloud-based broadcast solution as head of marketing comms, and will continue my involvement as a non-executive director of the English Ice Hockey Association and Communications Subcommittee of England Boxing. Maybe that's why he survived at World Sailing for long. He's a hockey player and a boxer.
Good.
And I wonder if he's ever had any black eyes.
I'm sure, yes. Yeah.
I will be handing over my role to an agency. Now, Mikkel texted me this morning, and he found that interesting that they're not appointing somebody. His role going to an agency in the interim, and for any World Sailing queries, please liaise with marketing@sailing.org. They're continue to cut the staff back and not replace people, whether through attrition or otherwise, because they don't have any bread, they don't have any money, and the team will pick up. Daniel Smith, Bravo Zulu, we're going to miss you. Thank you very much for your. He's one guy on that staff who has always been terrific.
Yes.
I mean, you've heard me talk to him
Absolutely.
on the speaker, and he was always honest. And if he couldn't tell us something, he'd say, "Sorry, I can't tell you that," or "I'll tell you that in 2 weeks' time. I'll tell you more about it," or he would tell me the truth, and then I would and he said, "But you can't use it." He would say, "I'll tell you the truth, but please don't use it because it's embargoed or it's off the record or whatever." And you know what? I wouldn't use it.
Right.
That's all you have to do is be honest. Like, when you do a face plant, you got to be honest with people. Tell them it happened in a hockey accident. Finally, at the finish line, this is our Labor Day, end of summer holiday here in the States. It's a federal holiday celebrated on the first Monday. This is our long 3-day, some people 4-day weekend. day set aside to pay tribute to working men and women and their contributions to the prosperity of the country. Despite this, the U.S. still has no statutory minimum paid vacation or paid public holiday. Some states do, to be fair. Labor Day has become an important weekend for retail sales. There's all sorts of sales on this weekend, which means that a quarter of all workers in the U.S. may work harder and longer on Labor Day. Of course, it's celebrated on May 1st in most of the rest of the world, but not here. And it's been celebrated on the 5th of September, or the first Monday since President Cleveland made it a holiday in 1894, a national holiday, our unofficial end of summer. And by the way, you don't wear white after Labor Day unless you're in Southern California. It marks the return, the beginning of NFL, National Football League, and college football, which I'm looking forward to.
Me too.
This weekend. In fact, started last night, didn't it, Julia?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't we see that Ohio State and a few other teams
Right.
were playing last night? When does Stanford play?
Tomorrow.
Who do they play? Uh-oh.
I've forgotten right now. Sorry.
Michigan plays this weekend, and they play, who do they play? Western Michigan, some weak team, normally weak team. So that's our Labor Day weekend. We, nonetheless, will work Monday, which is our Labor Day, because we got to prepare a show for Tuesday, and we are not going to take it off. There are lots of regattas around the country, and Canada also celebrates Labor Day this weekend on their Monday. It's a 3-day weekend. And the Sarasota Youth Sailing this regatta has been going on for something like 75 years. I don't know how long. And if you're not sailing, or when you're not sailing, there are family barbecues all over the place. To those of you celebrating it, happy Labor Day weekend. Julia, anything else?
Yes, I'm going to salute you with an empty cup of coffee on your 450th show.
What, me or our FOSI?
You and the FOSI.
I turn my mug around here, so.
Yeah, you and the FOSI.
Well, thanks. And thanks to all of we'll look up here at camera too, to all of our FOSI and to Julia, who's been here really since the beginning. She wasn't on the show as a co-host originally, but she was there sitting in the chair watching me make a fool of myself when we first started this after the 2017 Cup. And we should have put something in our coffee. People probably think we did.
I know, we're remiss.
And Julia, we're in under 2 hours, so you should be happy.
Yeah. David James reminds me we're playing Kansas State. Stanford is playing Kansas State tomorrow.
Is that the Jayhawks? Who's Kansas? Kansas Jayhawks or Kansas State? I don't know.
They were Rose Bowl.
Okay, Julia, your witness.
Yes. You must.
That's more like it.
Like, follow, and share, because it does a lot of good for us and everybody else watching.
Comments, of course, are welcome, even in replay. If you're watching, as most people do in replay, we get 1,000 people watching it live, and then thousands more in replay. And 450 is a lot of shows. It seems like a lot of shows, but the time it was just not too long. It seemed like we were doing 400, and now it's 450. But it's, I don't know. When we get to 500, maybe we'll just call it off. This is too much. And maybe Emmett is right. We cut back to once a week or something. So we can, we're old. We're old. We're in our dotage. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate very much your support, whether it's here watching or your kind comments or even your constructive, not so kind comments. We like to hear a thumbs up or a thumbs down on anything we do. Support us on Patreon, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. And Julia, is there anything else for the good of the order?
Oh, I think not. Let's look forward to a good, successful, happy year.
Well, now that we're in the school year, hopefully, a lot of schools are trying to start up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
We sure don't want a repeat of the last one.
No, we don't. Hopefully, this is getting behind us. Put the past behind us. You know who said that?
Yeah.
Pumbaa in The Lion King. Put the past behind us. We hope to see you all on Tuesday. We hope if you're celebrating in Canada or here in the States, have a great Labor Day weekend with the ones you love, and we'll see you Tuesday. In the meantime, as always, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao. Bye.